Welcome back to developing a dynamic website from start to finish. This is lesson 5. Today we're going to start working on the template system and do a very quick refresher on PHP before we do start that. We do have a series strictly for PHP that I believe is called Intro to PHP, and that's about 4 or 5 videos long. If this little refresher here does not help, then I suggest watching that and then hopping back into this series. But I just wanted to make sure that we have some of these terms fresh in your mind before we get started. The 3 terms we're going to talk about today are statements, variables, and conditionals. I'm going to go through and give just a brief description of them. I've also included a snippet from, I believe, Wikipedia on the actual definition, since my definition may be my own definition. I'll give you the official, the Wikipedia definition, that is, as well. So the first thing we're going to talk about are statements. And statements are pretty much the core of the whole language. Without statements, you wouldn't really have anything. Pretty much everything you do in PHP or a programming language in general is a statement. Just like a statement in literature or life, English, whatever, the dog is blue. That is a statement. I don't know if it's true, but the dog is blue. And this is the definition from Wikipedia, or at least the first sentence, which is all I grabbed. And it's pretty spot on. Like I said, it's kind of the building block, because without it, you don't have anything in your script. This is an example of a simple statement. Anybody familiar with tutorials involving programming know that it's a requirement to use this as your initial example. I believe I don't know, I think you can actually get in trouble for not using the Hello World example. Echo the string that is within these quotes, and then at the end we tell PHP, or pretty much any programming language that has this sort of syntax, that the end of the statement is where the semicolon is. The semicolon ends a statement. It's kind of like a period in a sentence. Do not use a period in PHP. That means something totally different. That means concatenate, which is something we'll get into later. Next on our list is variables. And my very first example of a statement, the dog is blue, is kind of an example of defining a variable. A variable, let's see what Wikipedia says. And that's spot on too. I imagine most of us who watch these videos had some sort of algebra, or if you're still a student in high school, you're going to have algebra soon. Variables, I don't think there's much of a difference in definition between a variable in algebra and a variable in programming. The only noticeable difference is that it seems usually in math you don't know the variable. The variable, as stated here, is unknown usually. However, in programming, many times you are defining a variable. You actually know the variable, and that's important because you're using that variable to store information. So it's a little different, but same concept. Basically, x equals 2. X would be the variable, or dog equals blue. Dog is the variable, blue is the value. I'm using, when I say blue, or if I say blue instead of a number, it's important to note that blue would be considered a string. And that's something maybe I could have put in here as a term, but any amount of text that we're going to store in a variable or use within PHP is considered a string. Anything that's contained within quotations is a string. If it's not numeric, it's a string. And here are some examples, or further examples. So in PHP, in order to define a variable, we need to first use the $sign or money sign. That's what tells PHP that whatever you are going to type directly after the symbol is the name of the variable itself, the name of the variable, or label, or however you want to think of that in your head. But the variable name comes directly after the $sign. And anytime you want to use that variable, you must use that $sign directly before it. No spaces, no nothing. It has to be touching it. That's the only way PHP will know that this, in fact, is a variable. So we have x is equal to the string hello world. Y is equal to 35, which is a numeric value. And name we have equal to Alan. I show both quotes here. These are both strings. Both x and name are both strings. The quotes are used for different purposes, and we'll get into that later. I only put them in here just to get you familiar with seeing both single and double quotes. The final thing I want to talk about with PHP before we move on are conditionals. And conditionals are pretty much, if something happens, then do this. If not, then do this. And that's the simplest form, I would think. You can get a little deeper with conditionals if you want, but the most simple is, well, here's the definition. Conditionals kind of, without conditionals, you really can't do much with programming. You can define variables to your heart's content, but conditionals allow you to take input and change the result of things depending on the answer to the question, which could be, you could have a user filling out a form on your page that says I'm a man or a woman, and when they hit submit, depending on whether they put in man or woman as their answer, it takes you to a different page. That would be performed with a conditional. So this is an example of a pretty simple conditional, and I'll walk through this really quick here. Line 1, what we're doing is we're creating a variable that we're going to call name, and we're giving it the value Alan, which is, people haven't realized yet, my name. And we do so with the equal sign. If that wasn't apparent in the discussion about variables. And what you see on line 2 is kind of the question, and you're going to see something here with the equal signs that is important to note. We're saying if name is equal to Alan, and that's kind of how you look at this double equals here. Think of it as the first equal sign is, and the second equals. name is equal to Alan. Because if you do not have two of them, it will actually define name as Alan right there. I know that may sound confusing, and this screwed me up quite a bit when I first started learning how to do programming. If I would make a typo and forget that second equal sign, what's going to happen is that it's going to define name as Alan, so it's always going to be true. Name will always be Alan because we're defining it on line 2. Even though we defined it already on line 1, it's going to redefine it on line 2 if we don't have those double equals. So 1 equal sign we're defining, 2 we're asking a question. Kind of think of it that way. So if name is equal to Alan, then it's going to do whatever is in this set of curly brackets between line 2 and line 4. And it's basically going to echo out the string, hello Alan, and that's it. So this would spit out hello Alan to the browser. Now if we did not define name as Alan on line 1 and ran this conditional, then the answer to the question would be false. So the else the else clause would run, which says echo out hello everybody else. So hopefully this can these are kind of things that you got to really see in action to understand if you don't know them already, but these are kind of the core of PHP and any programming language. Other programming language may write these out a little different, as in their syntax may be different, but statements, variables, conditionals, all parts of pretty much, I don't know any programming language that does not include some form of each one of those. So we're going to move on from here and do a little work on our template system. Alright, now we're back in the Dreamweaver here. This should be familiar if you're following along from the last lesson. We've got 3 files and 3 folders. We haven't really done much in any of these, so it doesn't. I don't think we need much refresh here. I am going to go to our browser here and just remind us what we did do. This was the result. We took our wireframes and kind of recreated them with HTML and a little bit of CSS. Or we gave our site a name, which is going to be a company name, Dynamic Sites LLC. It's a very important company. So we need to move on from here. Now we're going to start using some more PHP, which we've used a little bit. If we open up index.php, we did get into, we wrote a simple statement here at the top on line 3, which is an include function, and we're including the file called setup.php, which if we open that up, it's just a blank document right now, because we don't have anything to put in here yet. The other file we made was this style sheet here, which we will end up, once we expand on it, we'll kind of cut it up and turn it into multiple style sheets to better organize it. Images, we don't have any images yet. As I've mentioned before, we're going to try and keep this site itself very minimalistic. The styling, we'll try and make it look nice, of course, but we'll use CSS more than images, just to keep focus on the code and a little less design as opposed to the other series. So to start out, with any template system, we need to think about what parts of the site, let's pull up in the browser again, what part of the site is going to change and what is not. And this is important to know before you make any template system. This could change over time. There could be some parts that you modify later, but at the core, let's figure out what's going to stay. And just from my own experience, and maybe you can start, you've noticed this yourself too with other websites, there's a good chance our header here is going to stay the same. Our navigation, our menu is going to stay the same. And our footer is going to stay the same. And when I say stay the same, I mean pretty much it's going to look the same, it's going to be in the same location. We want it to be consistent. Now the footer may be farther down the page, depending on how much is in the content area, but the look and feel of it and what is in and what goes in there should stay the same. Now that does not mean it has to, but in this case that is what we're going to do. So we're going to make a template system based off of that idea, and we're going to do this in a way that I think is the easiest way to understand, and we're going to make it a little more advanced from there. Basically, we're going to do this the way that I did it when I first started teaching myself, and by the time we've finished up the template system, it will be more like what I use today. But I think getting to this will help us understand some of the core concepts of PHP anyway. So we have our areas. So we've decided the only area that's going to not stay the same will be the content area. That will be our quote dynamic area. The rest of the site will stay static. So in order to kind of get this point across, let's go ahead and make a very simple navigation here. We're just going to make some links. We're not even going to make anything fancy. So make a tag here. Call this home. Make sure to give it a href property. Right now, just give it the pound sign. And if you're not familiar with that, if you don't remember, that just means basically go nowhere. But so we'll keep it like that for now. We'll just be really generic with this. We're going to put just a dash there to separate. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste it a couple times here. So we have 4 menu items. So let's just say we've got home. This is a company, so let's say services. And then our next menu item will be, let's say, about us. And the last one will be contact us. This is all pretty generic and common. So let's go ahead and save this. Control S and then upload, Control Shift U, and we refresh the page. There we go. We have our menu. And again, this is very simple and unattractive, and we'll make things look more attractive here soon. But for now, let's just stick with this. The only thing we will do that's visual is let's go to styles.css and come in here, and under main nav, let's just give this div some padding, and we'll give it 20 pixels, and that should give it a 20 pixel padding all the way around. We'll save that and upload, Control Shift U, and there we go. I just wanted to have a little bit of buffer there so we can see the menu a little better. Come back to index.php. So we've got our menu here. Now let's go ahead and put some information in our footer. And then here in the content area, we'll just leave that as it is for now. So we've got our static areas kind of the way we want. What we want to do now is we're going to build this simple template system, and let's go ahead and go over here to the right here and right click and say new folder, and we're going to make a folder called template. And let's go ahead and we're going to make a new document. And actually, I'm going to show you a trick. It's not necessarily, I mean, it's not really a trick, it's just a quicker way to go about it. We have our setup document here. It's just a blank PHP document, which we're going to have to get used to. We're going to have a lot of blank PHP documents. Not blank when we're done with them, but we're going to have a lot of documents without all that HTML. Let's go ahead and use this that's already made, and just go ahead and save as. So we're basically making a copy. Go back a folder, go into our template folder, and we'll call this file here header. I'll say no, and change this comment to say header. Save that, and then now we can do this kind of over and over. We'll say save, and now we're going to call this one nav underscore main. Change the label here. Or comment, that is. Save that. And then save as again one more time, and we'll just call this one footer. Change the comment, say footer, and save. Alright, so we have these three files here now, and they're empty. We need to put something in them. In this first example of the template, like I said, it's going to be a real simple way of doing it. We're actually not even going to use any PHP outside of this comment here. We're simply going to go over to our index page, and for our header document we're going to go ahead and highlight this H1 tag and cut it out. Control X, go over to header, hit enter here, Control V for paste, and save. Alright, and then we're going to do the same with the main nav. So we want to get all of our links, not the div. Control X, enter, Control V for paste, save that. And if you didn't guess it already, we're going to do the same with the footer. Control X, enter, Control V, save. Okay, so now we have kind of the core of our template about to be set up here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of this include function that we used earlier for the setup file. So let's go in here and we'll start with the header, and we'll put our PHP tags in so that the page knows we're about to put some PHP in there. And for efficiency, let's copy this. Control C, paste it, Control V, and just change out template as the folder and header as the file name. And so what's going to happen here is, and I know this is going to seem really like a lot of extra work right now, but what's going to happen is it's going to go ahead and load. When the page loads, it's going to take whatever is inside of header PHP and spit it out right there on line 22. It's important to note that PHP itself is not visible in the browser, not even in the view source. So this here is unimportant. What is important is this HTML right here. That is what's going to be seen. So go back to index. Let's go ahead and copy this line here, and we'll paste that in our navigation area, and we'll paste another one in our footer, and change the names. Underscore main, and then this one down here we'll change to footer. We save that. So now what we have is this will automatically grab the contents of each one of these and put them in the respective places. And again, this seems pretty ridiculous since the content we have it's pretty simple. It wasn't messy. It was a very clean page still. But stick with me here. This is just teaching you kind of the core here. So we can save this and upload, Control-Shift-U, which we also need to upload our template folder too. So right click on that and choose Put. And if we go to our browser, we shouldn't notice much change at all. All we should notice is that the content we added, like the copyright information and such, should be there now. So if we refresh the page, there you go. So if we do a view source here, you can see exactly what I said. Even though that H2 tag or H1 tag isn't here anymore, and the navigation links aren't in here anymore, all that, they're in these other files. They're being placed right here where we left them, because that's where we're telling them to be included. And that is it's pretty much the simplest form of a template system you can come up with. Then here is where we do the changes. And the reason why this is important in this is that, say we want to make an About Us page, but we need to change the main navigation. We only need to change that once here in the main navigation file. Or say our company name changes, but we've got 5 or 6 pages: About Us, Contact Us, Home, etc., and we need to change that logo or our header at the top. We just need to go in here and change it once, and it will change across the site. And that is the importance and the kind of magic of a template. Now, I don't use the include method anymore for the static elements of the page, and that's something you'll see us evolve out of. But before we end this lesson here, we'll do something neat, which will just kind of give you a taste to be excited about the next lesson, and that is we're gonna work on the nav here. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna introduce something that I'm not gonna explain until the next lesson in detail, but it's gonna give you an idea of what we can do with PHP and templates. So we're gonna make our links here, and what we're gonna actually do is we're just going to make them go to the same page, the index page, except this time we're going to send a value to the page. URLs, we can send values through URLs, and that's done by putting the question mark here right after the location which the location is index.php. That's where we want to go. And then after that, we can make a couple of variables. Now, don't be confused with the variables we spoke about earlier. These are URL variables, which we'll get into a little later, but these are simply just done like this. We'll say page equals home, and I'll show you how to handle that here in a second. And let's go ahead and copy this and replace each one of these pound sign, number signs here, and we'll swap out the page. We'll call this services. Just call this about, and this one contact. And we'll save that. Control-Shift-U to upload. Now, if we went to our page right now, refresh, and we click on these, you can see down at the bottom there that you can see the page equals about, page equals service. There you go. So you can see where this is going to send us. But if we click on them, what it's going to do is just open the page again and really do nothing. That's because we haven't done anything with it. We haven't told the page what to do with this information up here. And this is the part where I'm gonna introduce something that we're gonna explain in the next lesson. But I just want to get it kind of squeezed in here so that you can have something to think about. When we pass values and make variables in the URL, they're sent to what's called the get array. And an array is something that we're going to have to talk about in the next video. But simply put, an array can hold multiple values. And the array that we're using right now is called the get array, and this is a predefined PHP array. So simply put, for right now, think of an array as a variable that can have more than one value. So here's what we're going to do. In order to access this page equals home, we need to access the get array, and we'll use the content area here to show that example. So let's give ourselves some PHP tags, and if you noticed, I got rid of the generic content. What we're going to do is go ahead and echo and I'm going to make a string which is contained within quotes, and I'm going to use single quotes. I'll almost always use single quotes unless I tell you otherwise. So within this statement, this echo statement, we're going to state the page is now, and then a space, and then we're going to go and do another line here, another statement. We're going to echo, and what we're going to echo is the value of something out of that get array. So we want get and this is what the the get array looks like. I guess that's the only way I can explain it. We need to find the key, which would be, or the label of the value we're looking for. And in this instance, we called it page. So what this is going to do now is get the value of page every time you click, every time the page is loaded. So we save this and upload it. Control-Shift-U for uploading. Remember, we actually won't have to do anything. We don't even need to refresh the page because we already have the variables being defined here in the URL. So if I click on About Us, the page is now About, and it's getting that value from up here. And congratulations, you've now created a dynamic website. It's not the most exciting dynamic website you've ever made, but you have now done so. This page, or this page itself is now dynamic. If we click on Services, it will change the services. Click on Home, it will go to Home, and Contact, Contact. Now, one thing to note, if we strip this out here, say we take this out and people just went, say, to our domain name, which people would normally do anyways, yoursite.com, we have an issue here, because technically this is the home page, but there's no value being given here. So it's just saying the page is now. And while that might be true, the page is now. That's not what we want. So the very last thing I'll show you is how we combat that. And we'll use an if statement. And what we're going to do is come down here, give ourselves some space, and we're going to write if, and then in parentheses we're going to do if get page is equal to, and that's basically saying it's equal to nothing. Now there's some differences between nothing in PHP and programming in general that we'll have to talk about later. Nothing has some different, yeah, okay, there's null and there's nothing and there's zero. So we'll have to get into that later. But basically, if page is empty, if it's an empty string, then do something. So we want that something to happen within these parentheses, or these curly brackets, and we'll just echo out home. And then we need to do an else statement, or else clause, else, and then we'll wrap this echo here within the else clause. Tab it out so it looks right. So what it's going to do then now is every time the page is loaded, it's going to check to see if the page variable has a value. If it doesn't, we'll just default it to home, because that's probably what we want. If it's not, then we would do something different here, but that's what we want. We want it to be the home page. So if it's not empty, it's going to spit out whatever we send it in the URL. So let's save and upload. Control U, and we come back over here. Let's go ahead and just reload this. There you go, the page is now home. So to recap, what we've just done is we learned about some simple PHP and overall programming topics, statements, variables, and conditionals, and we created a very, very basic template system. We will be pretty much throwing most of this out by the next lesson. I want to show you more. I mean, the whole point of this is to show you, or these series, or my whole point in general, is to show everybody how to do professional work, and this is amateur work. So we're going to start with amateur, and we're going to grow into professional before this series is over. But be proud of yourself. You just created a website that can change based on input, and by by at least my own definition, that is a dynamic website. We'll look for you in the next video. Thank you.